We want to continue to provide information that is valuable and reliable to our listeners. We welcome your comments and suggestions for topics that are important to you. Please see the description of this episode to contact the Brightside team.
So there's something that I've noticed, of course, and in my peers and that we know about is that as we get older, attention is a problem. And we know that that's critical to cognitive performance. It's like a fish with a little shiny object or something. Something can take your eye off the ball of what you're trying to do. Noise, a busy schedule, almost anything. And that seems to sort of slow processing down. And I'll let you say exactly what it does. But what about attention? Now, I know this is related. A young person will say, well, that's multitasking. Well, I'm counting on you to send a big torpedo into that multitasking thing, Linda, because I do it all the time, and I hope you will also. But I think this is about attention. So, what about it? Does that decrease with age?
Yes, there's two types of attention I want to discuss. One is selective attention, and that's our ability to focus on something specific despite the presence of other distracting or irrelevant information or stimuli. Now, an example would be like when you're surfing the web, spotting the relevant information on a cluttered web page. All right, that would be one thing. Another might be following a conversation despite being in a busy environment, like when people are at a restaurant or something and there's music playing and you're trying to talk to the person across the table and so forth. So this ability actually becomes less efficient as we get older. But the other one that really gets us is divided attention, which, as you refer to as multitasking, which is the ability to manage multiple streams of information or tasks at the same time. Reading a recipe while listening to music, or maybe cooking the recipe while watching a TV show can get you into trouble if you're older. Same thing like when you're driving on the highway and you're trying to watch all the traffic and everything. So I do want to clarify, as you mentioned, Roger, multitasking is actually a misnomer. We really are never doing two things at the same time. We think we are, but our brain is actually shifting attention back and forth very rapidly, which we're not even aware of, between the two tasks. And what research has shown, especially like in work settings, especially, but when people do multitask, they try to do two things at once, the end result is usually that they make more errors in either of the tasks or both of them. And if they look at the time it takes to complete the two tasks while multitasking, it's usually longer than if they'd done task A and then done task B. So with that said, multitasking becomes more challenging the older we get. And you might find yourself, if you're, in LA driving on the highway with all the traffic, you might tell the person next to you, you know what, let's talk later. I'm just going to concentrate on my driving right now.
Back to the cockpit again. When the air traffic controller would talk to you, there's a lot going on in the airplane, and they had to divide their attention frequently. But it was they learned very quickly to fly the plane first and answer the air traffic controller, because it's not that important to be polite, say, to answer immediately. And that's probably just a small example, but I'm happy to hear that, because I've heard that there are interviews with some jobs where the interviewer will talk to the interviewee and say, how are you at multitasking? Are you good at it? I would love for someone to say, I don't do that because I don't think it's happening. I don't do that because you make errors and it takes longer. But so I'm really happy to hear you say that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I wish you could talk to some old bosses I had who just seemed to think you could be in 15 million places at once. And I'm curious, because I'm always on the meditation train. Have you found anything where people are meditating or practicing mindfulness that it helps with attention as they age?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. The research on mindfulness meditation has shown that people who engage in that regularly actually can increase their attention span. It sort of teaches them in their brain the ability to stay focused longer and so forth. So yes, maybe I should start doing that. I haven't engaged in that yet.
Video games, meditation. Okay, I'm getting the message. I'm writing it down.
So I'm curious, and this happens to my husband and I all the time, where I'll say something and he's like, I know, I told you that like 2 weeks ago. And I don't remember him telling me that. I thought it came from someplace else. So how does aging affect memory in terms of information and events?
Well, the good news is that our memory for historical events and autobiographical memories, we call that episodic memory, what you ate for dinner last night or what gift you got on your last birthday. Those memories tend to be reliable with age if you have no cognitive impairment. Source memory, or accurately recalling where you learned the known information, actually does decline. And that, in other words, so you can remember something, but you think, well, did I hear it on TV? Did I, read it in the newspaper? And this can explain why, let's say you tell a friend a joke and this person says, well, that's the joke I told you 2 weeks ago because you didn't remember where you heard it.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as a savant? Because I have a friend who can tell me what he ate for dinner a year and a half ago on the particular day. Now, I try to keep clear of him because he freaks me out. But what is that all about? Just, some people have those skills.
You think of Marilu Henner, I think, was the person. And they've identified a number of people who have this super autobiographical memory, where they literally can tell you, if you name a date, November 3rd, 1985, they will know what happened that day to them. There's something different about their brain.
Wow.
I'll say that just freaks me out.
Source memory, as we just explained, is something that declines, but it's not a big issue for the most part. It doesn't really get us in trouble. Another one that we should be more concerned about is prospective memory. And that refers to remembering to perform an intended action in the future, such as taking medication after breakfast or mailing a birthday card on the right date. And this does decline with age. So I do advocate for people to be much more intentional about creating to-do lists and then looking at them, obviously, or using a calendar to remind us of the things we need to do. It's okay to use external aids. We don't have to keep it all up here. One example that I've started doing lately is a lot of times when I'm laying in bed trying to fall asleep, my brain thinks of, tomorrow I have to do this and that, and I make a list, right? And rather than turning a light on, waking up my husband and, writing a list, I'm trying to practice memory strategies by making a mental list and using some of the strategies, which I'll talk to perhaps in another podcast about, how to remember this list when I wake up in the morning. And I'm getting better at it. Sometimes I don't remember all the items when I first wake up. It may take a few hours till it comes to me or something in the environment triggers that item on the list. But that's a good strategy you might want to try if that's something of concern. And then
I need to work on that, because anytime I've done that, I just go through the list over and over and over again. I got to remember this in the morning over and over for the hour. And then I'm like, you know what? I just need to get up. So I need to get better about that.
And the good thing about procedural memory, which is like riding a bike, playing a musical instrument, is that you don't lose that, which is great. I still remember I had lived in Colorado for years. That's where I got my doctorate. And we were in Illinois for many years and decided to take our son on a ski vacation. And I hadn't skied in probably 20 years, maybe not, about that much. And I got on the top of got off the lift at Vail Pass and I was skiing. And it's like, my body, I could just feel that. I thought, this is procedural memory. My brain was saying, okay, keep your weight on the downside of the mountain and do this and do that. Hadn't thought about it in decades, right? And the ability to do that stays with you. So that's kind of a fun thing.
Well, Linda, you've given us a lot to think about so far. I think we should probably take a break here. But before we do, if I can, I'd like to sum it up. And, Pollyanna Roger, this is what I hear. I hear that, yes, with age, things happen. We don't function exactly the same way we did. And there is some decline. However, if we accommodate in some areas with lists and that sort of thing, as you mentioned, or we use things like Tom Brady or video games or things like that we can hope and we can expect to function at a level that is indicative of healthy longevity and not something to be particularly concerned about. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. Yeah, that's the impetus of so much research today is, what are the lifestyle practices we can engage in to keep our brain healthy?
Well, excellent, Linda. Whew, wow, that was a load. Let's that'll be the end of part one, but we're going to do part two because you still have a lot to tell us and we're all anxious to hear it. Thank you for being with us today, Linda.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
You've been listening to Dr. Roger and Friends, The Bright Side of Longevity. If you like the show, please rate and review, and be sure to click to follow.